Hey, everybody. Welcome to another kind of pseudo episode. It's not a real one. I don't really think this can be considered a real episode. I sacrificed a lot of sleep, though. Just so you know, I have sacrificed a lot of sleep. This is true horror, I'm calling it. Basically, because these horror stories I'm going to tell you about were adapted from either actual events or inspired by true events. Okay, so creepy, bottom line, let's go for it. So, my new nightmares are really hating me for this, but it's worth it because it's for some reason, there's like a visceral part of people that love to be scared. I'm one of them, I'm no different, but oh my God. I always wonder after the fact, like, why am I doing this to myself? And of course, I'm home alone, so it doesn't help. The dog, God bless her, but she just snores through them. So, anyway, have you ever heard of Ed Gehan? I, I'm sure his name somehow resonates after I tell you who he was. I hadn't heard of him though, so I went by a name. Let's see, he's got two of them that they really use a lot of: Butcher of Plainfield or Plainfield Ghoul. Either one, not awesome, not awesome. He was an American murderer and body snatcher. Although, ironically enough, the movies that I'm talking about that he's correlated to, not Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So anyway, he was also the inspiration behind Norman Bates' character in the Alfred Hitchcock classic, Psycho, and he also was the inspiration behind Buffalo Bill, the creepy guy from Silence of the Lambs who wore the skin of his victims, put the lotion in the basket. Oh. And but Ted Levine played that so well. I had such a hard time getting past that character though, because he played an awesome character and kind of funny and lighthearted in a show called Monk, who I mean that show is awesome, but I mean it took me like a full season to really embrace him as a non-murdering, skin-wearing actor. Okay, so that just tells you how good the movie was. But anyway, Guillen gained notoriety in 1957 after authorities found that he was exhuming corpses from local graveyards and fashioning the trophies and keepsakes from their bones and skin. I can't believe it. He also confessed to killing two women, and he initially was found unfit to stand trial. Well, actually, you got to be kind of mental for this. And he was confined to a mental health facility. But in 1968, the judge, a judge, found him competent to stand trial and found him guilty of murder, and he was remanded to a psychiatric institution. Now, the thing is, he was found guilty, but then later found insane too, so whatever. But he died in the Mendota Mental Health Institute in July of 1984. For some reason, when I was writing this and doing the research, this guy reminded me of like Michael Myers from the Halloween movies, which were not based on true stories. But it's like all of him inside mental facilities get, like, you know how Michael Myers escapes from the mental facilities and just keeps killing people? I mean, at least Guillen died for real and was buried, thank God. But he does, like, his legacy is notorious. So besides Psycho and Silence of the Lambs, Guillen's story was loosely adapted to other films, loosely adapted, like other characters, but like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Leatherface. Yeah, Leatherface. We all know what that's made out of. Now, the character, Garland Green from Con Air, I'm not sure if you remember him. He was the cannibal. He was Steve Buscemi. And if you don't know who Steve Buscemi was or is, he's in a lot of Adam Sandler movies, but he's also like the movie Fargo. Eh? Yeah, he was shot in the face. He was one of the assassins who got shot in the face. But anyway, had to talk like this. Sorry. And also, there was a character, or there is a character named Dr. Oliver Thredson in the TV series American Horror Story Asylum. I have never watched that, primarily because of reviews I've read and heard from my friends who are like, you don't need to watch that. Don't think you'd be able to handle it. They know me. Also, moving on, did you know that Scream was based, like, it was rooted in a real life case? I didn't. Now, directed by the great and late Wes Craven, it was said to be mirrored after the Gainesville Ripper, who murdered 5 college students in short succession. I didn't know that. Now, and although Scream was altered to fit, into the slasher genre, I mean, it was a lot of fun to watch those movies. Now, I just watched the 5th installment. I think it was the 5th one. And they haven't lost a step. I mean, I know Wes Craven passed away, but they haven't lost a step. These movies are good. Great twists in all of them. Anyway, have you ever heard of Ed and Lorraine Warren? They're not murderers or anything. They are just very well known. If you are into paranormal, these guys are like the godfather and godmother of the paranormal. There was a movie called The Conjuring. Actually, they inspired a lot of movies in the horror genre because of their stories that they told, claiming them to be true. I'm not sure. Like, I don't know how much of what they did is based in reality. I think they were sort of pulled into question about some of their stuff, but I think that had something to do with like seances or something. But anyway, they are the like. So you had The Conjuring, but you also had Amityville. They were involved in the Amityville horror. Does that sound familiar? Now, of course, like, all of these movies are so they have such longevity, and they ring with familiarity with people because like of the ongoing phenomenon around these movies, right? They are made into sequels. Oh my God, so many sequels. Now, granted, the sequels are not great. Let's be honest, some of them suck. Other than like Terminator 2, which was almost equal to, if not better than, the first one. I'm sticking by that. Godfather 2? All right, anyway, I'm going to derail here. But they used a lot of their investigations, even when the movie Poltergeist was used, with some inspiration from them. But I don't know if you've had ever heard of them. I, of course, have, because I'm into that stuff. But I should have read more about what they said about Ouija boards. Remember what I did? Yeah, you know. If you haven't, then go back and watch that episode. I'm an idiot. Anyway, next up, this is definitely for where I live. This is the creepiest one and the one that rings the most uncomfortable for me. It's called The Strangers. It is based on true stories, and this film was inspired by violent crimes, including like the Tate murders from the Manson family. And also the director, Brian Bertino. As a child in his neighborhood, there were a string of robberies and home invasions in his neighborhood. So it's like he really drew from like horror experience from his own life. I sit here in the middle of nowhere. Now, granted, I have neighbors who thankfully are very, protective, and they're all armed, thankfully. Appropriately so, though. They all know what they're doing. But the scary thing for me is just the realness of this. Like, you see in that, when I think I popped up the picture, and it just says, because you were home. I don't enter the door the same way after watching this movie. And I watched this movie a long time ago. This is like from 2008, I think. It just absolutely got to the core of what terrifies me. And because my husband's away a lot, and my dog, as much as she is a barker, as soon as you come in the door, she's just going to lick you. She's not going to bite you, Shouldn't say that, but it's true. And unfortunately, I look at the world the way it is now, and I don't trust it. And I don't trust people like I used to. I used to really be one of those like very open, very like, yay, yeah, don't lock my doors kind of thing. I lock everything. I come inside just to sit. If I'm going to be home and it's during the day, I lock. All the doors are always locked. I always have an exit plan. Let's put it that way. I know where the heaviest object is near me, and there is always a heavy object near me. And it's really sad because the world is just a completely different place than I grew up in. When I grew up, it was like when it got dark, the cowbell went. We all went home for dinner and then came out later until the street lights came on. Nobody was worried about anything. Nobody was. Anyway, it's a dark place out there, so it makes these kinds of horror movies just land a little bit more maybe than others. But anyway, another classic film from the genius mind, and maybe the genius mind yet somewhat disturbing mind of Wes Craven, comes A Nightmare on Elm Street. Now, this is from an interview. Okay, so Wes Craven did an interview with Vulture magazine before he passed away, obviously. And he said that this movie was inspired by newspaper stories that came from the Los Angeles Times. And in 1981, he said that there were young males, Southeast Asian young males, refugees who died in their sleep, okay? Many men would refuse to go to sleep. Now, if you don't get sleep, because it's like your body's way of regenerating, you are eventually going to die. So they were afraid, these young men were afraid of the nightmares, and they feared them so much, they thought that whatever came to them in their nightmares would kill them. A total of 26 men died as a result of this like kind of a phenomenon. And like I said, in 1981. But I mean, you got to be wired really different to seek out stories like that, or find a story like that and then turn it into a movie like Nightmare on Elm Street. You got to be weird. I mean, I'm weird. I'm weird in a I'm more like mainstream weird of like, I talk to myself. I'm a Gemini. I talk to myself. It sound like I get answers or anything. Don't worry about that. But still, I'm weird in other ways. Not in like, I'm going to go write a horror slasher film. Anyway. Okay, last one, I promise. This one's still unsolved, but I think that might be okay. Okay, the chilling tale told in 2007. It's called Zodiac, and it starred Jake Gyllenhaal. It had Robert Downey Jr. And Mark Ruffalo. I think that's who else is in the picture. And this movie was about the brutal murders that took place in the 60s and 70s in San Francisco. And this killer taunted the police with puzzles and code messages through the press. And the director, David Fincher. Jesus, my God, my mouth. I haven't even had a sip of alcohol, I swear. Centered this particular, I swear to God, have no idea why I cannot put a freaking sentence together. This story, he decided to focus on the obsession that a political cartoonist by the name of Robert Graysmith, who is the Jake Gyllenhaal character. He became completely engrossed in finding this killer. Of course, they never did. But since there haven't been additional killings, it went unsolved, but they still don't know who did the murders, yet there haven't been more. I'm kind of suspect to believe that the murderer has probably passed away, or maybe is incarcerated in some other fashion for some other reason. Maybe not. Okay, I'm just going to recap real quick. You got Psycho, Silence of the Lambs, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Scream, The Conjuring, Strangers, Nightmare on Elm Street, Zodiac. These movies do not make sweet dreams. I'm just telling you. But I'm going to leave you with Unicorns and Moonbeams and a basket full of puppies, because that's what you need to be thinking of. You don't need to keep all this other ugliness with you. And I hope until next time you are staying happy and healthy, stay weird, and take care. Thanks for coming by. See ya.